Isabel Oakeshott is with us, Talk's international editor, joining us live. And this story as well, Isabel. Benefit cheats face being banned from driving for 2 years under proposed new anti-fraud laws. People who owe more than £1,000 in wrongly claimed welfare payments and have ignored repeated requests to return the money could be punished under new proposed changes. Let's have a listen to a clip from Fraser Nelson's documentary on Britain's benefit problems.
So you're working part-time now and you're getting long-term sickness benefit. So what's the combination of those two compared to when you were working full-time with no benefits?
It's no different. So I'm probably working half the hours for the same money.
Right. So there's no financial incentive for you to get out of a situation at all?
None at all. None at all.
So why are you here? Why are you talking to me?
Because I wanted to highlight how bad things are.
Well, I mean, fair play, Isabel, for the man there highlighting how bad things are. He hasn't been banned from driving, and this is another great government initiative where apparently telling you you're not allowed to get on four wheels might well be the answer to the problem.
Look, I'll take any answers to the problem at this point. I mean, if telling people they can't drive if they commit benefit fraud makes a difference, then I'm all ears. I see this as one of the biggest, if not the biggest problem facing our country. The reason that the government is so strapped for cash and keeps having to ask people who work for more in tax is because we've got far too many people who are not incentivized to work. And you know, it's human nature in some ways to do as little as possible. If you're going to get handouts and you don't actually have to do anything in return, well, you know, I can kind of understand why some people might prefer to have a life of leisure, albeit no one's saying they get to live high on the hog, but, you know, they can still have a perfectly decent existence. And there is so much industrial scale abuse of the system that it's almost hard to know where to begin. You need a Trump-like approach to this, where you just say, you know what, for example, I'm just scrapping the entire, for example, Motability scheme. I'm going to start again. I'm going to narrow it down to, you know, a small number of people who genuinely have a powerful case for taxpayer-funded, subsidised driving, for example. We just mentioned that just because we're talking about banning people from driving. The Motability scheme, I think, is a enormous scandal. So much so, by the way, when I tweeted about this recently, I was contacted by a number of people who used to benefit from the Motability scheme as dealers, car dealers. And they said, you know what, there's more than one person contacted me about this, said, do you know what, I pulled out of the Motability scheme because I could see that it was being royally abused and I could not in all conscience continue to take money for providing these vehicles. So I'm not saying that some people don't need them or deserve them or whatever, but it's just one example. We have a massive problem of benefits abuse in our country, and whatever it takes, it needs to be done.
Well, you're right. I mean, the car thing is extraordinary. My sister used to live next door to a guy who was, you know, he got one of those free cars. Our suspicions were first aroused when he completed the London Marathon, and we thought, hang on, that's a bit strange. Poor old bad back Bob seems to be doing rather well. Eventually, events caught up with him and the car disappeared. Let's move on to this story. Donald Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance were urged by a bishop to have mercy on trans children and immigrants during an inauguration church service. Let's have a listen to what Bishop Mariann Edgar Budde had to say.
In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families. Some who fear for their lives.
Well, it was powerful stuff, and you know, many, Isabel, on all sides of the political arena have said, well, you know, that's kind of her job to do that. Is there anything wrong with what she said? And how do you think it would have penetrated the thoughts of Donald Trump?
Well, I love looking at the expressions. I mean, if that was supposed to be a prayer, I mean, you're generally supposed to keep your eyes shut during a prayer, but those lot were just, they were just
wide open.
Going, oh, wow, what is this? Look, I mean, men and women of the cloth, it's their duty, I suppose, to be as big-hearted and generous as anything. But I mean, had I been sitting in that audience, I would have had to have restrained myself, that congregation, from, you know, snorting with derision. The idea that trans children fear for their lives as a result of this change of administration. You know, perhaps the best thing we could do to protect so-called trans children is not to fill their heads with all this confusion about gender identity in the first place. And that's what Donald Trump said in that amazing speech he gave following the inauguration. He was very clear, there are only two biological sexes, men and women. And in my view, and in view of many people in America and indeed the UK, the best way we can protect children from being unhappy is not to fill their heads with ideas that there might be, you know, 25 different other genders.
Yeah, telling 5 and 6 year olds, and we know it does go that young, that they could be any one of 25 or even 125 different genders out there, and you can be who you want to be. You can be a different gender on a different. I mean, the levels of confusion and frankly abuse that is involved in all of that is off the scale. So we'll sit and see what happens. I don't imagine Trump's policy or beliefs are going to change, despite whatever intentions came from the bishop. Finally, this one, the top children's slang words of the year have been revealed. But what do they mean? I mean, that's the big question. And where do they come from? Let's see if you recognise this one.
What the heck is going on you?
Now, the first thing to say, Isabel, before we explore the meat of this story, is that clip came from a YouTube channel where animated faces in urinals gets them 45 million subscribers. It's worth a fortune. Someone's clearly watching that old guff. Skibbity was the word there. Any idea what it means, Isabel?
Gotta confess, I'm not up on Skibbity. I do have 3 sort of young teenage children. Not heard that one from them yet. Heard plenty of other bewildering phrases, but not that one.
Apparently, that was the 3rd most popular slang term for kids. It emerged from that viral video. The word lacks clear meaning, used by 15% of children in a survey to describe something unusual or extraordinary. Skibbity. So when you hear Yvette Cooper give a speech or David Lammy walk off an aeroplane, skibbity is the correct response. Sigma came second, a word that is bandied around my house every 3rd sentence at the moment. Don't really know what Sigma means. Slay is another big one, reflecting trends from LGBT culture and social media. And the list goes on. I mean, I guess we could say, well, it's always been a bit like this, isn't it? We've all had strange words as kids that our parents don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still trying to get, you know, I'm so out of touch with all of this. And there's a whole other lexicon you need for understanding their WhatsApp messages or Snapchat, if that's what they've got. I mean, for example, IKR, do you know what that stands for?
RKR.
No, IKR.
Oh, IKR. No.
Yeah, that's just, I know, right? I know,
oh,
right?
right, I know, right, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, all of this is like a daily challenge. I need a translation app, you know, just what do you think they're saying?
Yeah, it's funny. Second mention of my sister, actually, here, by the way, who's older than me, by the way, Isabel, who once in a while sends me a message and she defaults to some of those. I know she's got, you know, younger kids and stuff, but it's bizarre. I have to text her back and say, what does that mean?
What do you mean? Yeah. Absolutely. Well, you know, we've just got to constantly evolve, Ian, to keep up with the kids.
And we're cool, you know, and we're the coolest part of our generation, and even we don't understand it. What hope is there for anyone else, Isabel?
And I also think it's probably different from one school to another, or one area to another. You know, little phrases take off, don't they? And they've all got their own little in-words. There's no hope for the rest of us.
Sigma. None at all. Isabel, thank you. Isabel Oakeshott is Talk's international editor.